Hello, my name is Hakon and welcome back to my channel where today I'm going to say a few words about this book. This is Edmund Spenser, Amoretti the Sonnets, modernized and annotated with an introduction by me. And this is, in many ways, it's like the book version of my YouTube video series where I read all the 89 sonnets from this particular sonnet cycle by Edmund Spenser, and most importantly, I've modernized the language because Edmund Spenser, if you come across it in another book, in an anthology, at school, university, studying English, literature, whatever, it looks like this. And that is a problem, I think. And it's a problem that didn't need to exist because Spenser is the only one of the Elizabethan early modern English poets that are printed exclusively almost in the original orthography, and there is no really good reason for it. In fact, there are many reasons why you shouldn't do that, because if the language looks like that, your mind, when you come across this poem, is going to be preoccupied trying to decipher what it means, and you might struggle to read it. You might read it the wrong way. You might have to look words up in a dictionary, and all these things will detract from the potential enjoyment that should be experienced in the encounter of a new poem. Of course, there are many reasons why people read poetry, and I think the main one and the most important one is to read them for your own enjoyment and how they make you feel and think. That, for me, is the ultimate reason for reading poetry. And how it makes you feel is often linked with how it sounds. How it makes you think is to do with what it means, or what you think it means, what it means to you as a person, with your own experiences that you take with you when you read other written works. And if you write it in the original orthography, all those things will be blocked from you. You can't do any of those things until you actually understand what it says. And that is doing people a great disservice. You actually are denying people the opportunity to experience Spenser with the same immediacy as you would other poets. And I think people are being shortchanged. And this is something I wanted to redress by modernizing Spenser, allowing people to read it in a way that makes more sense. So this is what's been done with Shakespeare. I mean, people think Shakespeare looks a bit quaint and old-fashioned, and some people even refer to it as Old English because they don't know the correct terms, which is fine. You can see where they're coming from because you read Shakespeare and you have no idea what you're reading, but if you read Spenser, you'll have even less of an idea what you're reading because it has not been modernized. Now, one thing about modernizing is that it has a very particular limitation, and that is that you still want to preserve the choice of words. And the reason is, of course, you want to preserve the poeticness of the lines you are modernizing. And the poeticness, that has to do with the meter, the rhythm, the way the words sound together, and also the word choice itself. And in order to achieve this, to maintain it in a modernized text, you have to keep a lot of words that are then sounding a little bit old. And this is one of the reasons why a modernized text like Shakespeare, the way we usually encounter it, still sounds very old-fashioned to us. And the same thing pertains to Spenser. If you want to keep the word choice, you have to have lots of words that are now archaic, that are no longer being used by the general English speaker. And these are things that you then have to make a note of in the text, saying this word means that, or this phrase means that. So these are things that are in the notes. There's another category which is really important actually, because there are lots of words both in Shakespeare and Spenser that you may think that you know what they mean exactly, but the meaning that is used in the Elizabethan texts is actually different to the modern meaning. So the meaning itself has become archaic and no longer being used. And this is where it's very important, of course, to have a note on it in the book to say what the old meaning was so that you can understand what the literal meaning of the text is. And then there's another category of notes I've put in the book. That's where you have things that are phrased in a way that doesn't always follow modern grammar. And so it might be tricky to understand exactly what is being said. And I put in some notes on that as well. In my notes, of course, there is always more I could have put notes on. And some notes might seem superfluous to some readers, but I've tried to keep a balance enough that you can understand it, and also I've tried not to presume too much about who reads it now, because I'm not going to presume that this is going to be read exclusively by native English speakers, for instance. It might be read by a student of English from another native language. So there might be some words that are obvious to an English speaker, like thrall and ire, but that might not be to someone who comes from a different language background. Another thing I made notes on is allusions, that is mythological references mainly, and to Greek mythology in particular in Spenser. And some might think that allusions are part of an analysis rather than a literal meaning, but the thing is that the intended reader of Spenser's poetry, when he was writing these, he would use references to Greek mythology that he knew that the intended reader would know instantly as part of a shared culture. And therefore they become part of the actual literal meaning of a poem, I think, rather than the subtext. Or in addition to the subtext, I should say, because obviously they add another layer of subtext that you can analyze further and see how it connects with other things in the poem. But what I think is important for me is to make sure that the modern reader, who may not have all these Greek mythology references as part of their shared culture anymore, because our culture is so much more diverse now, and it's less monocultural than it used to be, and everyone has their own rabbit holes, I should say, I could say, of what the kind of culture they try to expose themselves to or that they want to consume, that I'm not going to take it as a given that people know that these are even references to Greek mythology. So somebody, if a poem says Persephone, I'm not going to presume that everyone who reads that will instantly know about Persephone, and or Orion and the Dolphin, or Pandora. Well, Pandora more likely, of course, but most people don't know the full story about Pandora. They only know about Pandora's box, but they don't know why there was Pandora's box, for instance. So I've also put notes to these allusions in the book as well. So how I've done it is, the way I like notes when I'm reading poetry with notes is that I have the notes across on the second page. I don't like footnotes, because when you're reading and you have to glance down at the bottom and then back up again, and you have to find the note at the bottom, and then you have to find your place again in the text, it slows you down. And whereas across, ideally straight across from where the note is, what it references, but I just put it from the top here, because sometimes, especially the mythological allusions, they take a little bit more writing, and so it would be impossible to actually make it properly across. So here I have the original orthography, and then I have the modernized orthography down here, and then it's the notes on the side there. That's how I've done it, and that's how I think is the most convenient way. And also another advantage to this way of doing it is this leaves you plenty of space on most pages for notes as well. And I think that books of poetry, especially if it's something that you may study, should leave plenty of space for notes. So I like my Shakespeare to have lots of space for notes, and I also would want my Spenser to have lots of space for notes. If I want to analyze something, it's nice to be able to make some little remarks in the book itself if you're not too precious about things like that. Right, what else is there to say about it? So there's a new book out now on Amazon, Edmund Spenser, Amoretti the Sonnets, Modernized, annotated by me, available on all Amazon shops as a print-on-demand book. And yeah, if you're interested in Spenser, or if you want to support my channel as well, please buy this. I am also intending to make this available as a PDF for patrons of I think £5 a month or over. That level will have this available to them as a PDF, printable PDF. But otherwise, of course, I would appreciate it if you support my channel and my artistic and creative work by buying the book. So, and also, in addition to supporting my work, you will actually be able to read Spenser in the way that Spenser probably intended as well, for people to understand his work. I don't think he wanted to deliberately be too quaint and therefore inaccessible. So yeah, so that's all I had to say today, I think. So thanks for watching, and if you want to watch my YouTube series now on Spenser, it's available. I'll put a link to the playlist somewhere up here, maybe. Another thing to note, by the way, is that when I was working on this book, I was working on this book after I made the video series. So all the notes have been updated, expanded, improved quite a lot. I've also improved some of the modernized versions, some punctuation, some spelling, etc. has been improved in the printed book now compared to what it says on YouTube. And I'm probably not going to bother updating all of them. I might do. I'll see if I feel like it, but it's going to be a lot of work that it's not really necessary, I think. So yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching, and buy the book, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.